Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School. Every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, 9 p.m. Eastern time, we have the deepest dives, the most intense conversations, the most critical analysis of everything going on in the world. And today is no exception. We're going to get started. We're going to get right to it. Tonight is a night where some interesting things have taken place in the state of Israel. Israel's High Court has issued a ruling that may not only change the cultural fabric of Israel, but also may dismantle Benjamin Netanyahu's very, very fragile coalition. The Israeli High Court ruled that ultra-Orthodox men have to serve in the Israeli military. It's a landmark ruling. It was a unanimous decision from the High Court, and they have honestly done a complete 180 from what they've done in the past. You see, for years, the Israeli High Court has given a religious exemption, right? And the religious exemption for them, for the ultra-Orthodox Jews, was a form of equal protection. In other words, everybody in Israel has to participate in military service. It's a conscription army. Men and women serve time. It used to be 3 years. Now it's more like 2.5 years in the military. The women do a little bit less. And it's a part of your citizenship. If you walk through Israel, when you walk through Israel or the West Bank, where it's illegally occupied, you'll see a bunch of soldiers that all look pretty young. Most look really young. And it's because they're doing their time in the Israeli army, Israeli military. But the ultra-right has always said that their religious beliefs prevent them from having to participate. Now, when I say the ultra-right, that's not, I don't mean that in any pejorative sense, although some people don't love the term ultra-Orthodox. Some people don't like to be considered ultra-Orthodox. They prefer the term strictly Orthodox. They prefer the term Haredi or Haredim, which refer to people who have very strict readings of scripture. They are the equivalent of, not the equivalent of, they are fundamentalists. And they have very particular adherence to conservative religious values, whether it's separating men and women, boys and girls, whether it is where they go to school, how they go to school, whether it's the clothing they wear. When you see that black or navy suit with the white shirt, when you see the fedora, when you see the Homburg hat, when you see black skull caps, these are all things that you see from the Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox. Now, some people think of the ultra-Orthodox as anti-Zionist. The ultra-Orthodox are not anti-Zionist. Some are, but most aren't. Most are non-Zionist. In other words, the bulk of the Orthodox Jews, the ultra-Orthodox Jews in Israel in particular, don't necessarily believe in the formation of an Israeli state at this juncture, but they're not out there trying to dismantle the Israeli state either. They have a kind of practical or pragmatic belief that, look, we don't believe in this, but we need this thing here. There's a very small slice of people who are ultra-Orthodox and actually identify as anti-Zionists. They actually protest the Israeli government and its existence. Groups like the Netanyahu, who make up a very small slice of the ultra-Orthodox. So when you see ultra-Orthodox, I don't want you to think they're all like the Netanyahu, who are like marching through Jerusalem saying like down with Israel. Most of them support Israel. They just aren't like, philosophically they would say we don't support it, but practically they do. But all of it is tied into a religious belief that the state of Israel should not be formed, and that the action of Israel should not be formed until the return of the Messiah. And so until the Messiah comes back, they don't believe that Israel should have been formed. And because they don't believe that, that's a major reason why they don't participate in military service. So that's been the status quo. That's been the norm. They say that the religious exemption protects a religious minority. In other words, we don't believe in this, And so we're not going to participate in it because it's against our religious beliefs. And the state is saying, yeah, everybody has to participate, but because it's for religion, we will allow you not to. That is a fairly standard state response within so-called democracies, right? It's the same thing in the United States. But in a new ruling, the Israeli government has concluded that the state was carrying out, quote, invalid selective enforcement. And that this invalid selective enforcement, quote, represents a serious violation of the rule of law. So they were basically saying that by not forcing these people who don't believe we're creating bedlam. We don't have equality in the application of the law. So they're saying the only way to have true justice is to make these people fight. Now, there are some practical reasons why the Israeli government is doing this. I want to give you all the full context. That's what Night School is about. In 1948, when the State of Israel was formed, the Haredim were like maybe 400 people, maybe, 100 families, something like that. Definitely 400 people were ultra-Orthodox families, right? And so it was like, all right, these 400 people ain't got to fight. The problem is, Haredim families be procreating. They believe in that part. They definitely believe in procreation. Their family size is somewhere between 6 and 7 children, not 6 7 people, 6 and 7 children. They are the fastest growing birth rate and the fastest growing segment of the country's population. 25%, 1 out of 4 men who are of draft age or enlistment age in Israel are Haredim. So basically what Israel's saying is, it's too many of y'all not to fight. It's too many of y'all not to fight. And if you're not eligible for military service, you're not eligible to work. You can't have a job if you get out of military service. So now you got 25% of people who aren't working and who aren't in the military. That's rough. I understand the Israeli position on this. I'm not agreeing with the Israeli position, but I understand their logic. They're saying we can't afford this, both militarily or economically. The problem is that's the price of democracy. Israel always says it wants to be a democracy, and yet here's a moment, once again, where you can respect religious freedom. You can respect people saying, look, this is our belief. If you are Haredim, if you are Haredi, it means literally the word, like in Islam, we talk about taqwa, right? A fear or a loving fear of God, right? Haredi means to fear God as well. It's one who trembles before God. They're saying we don't participate in the modern world. We don't believe in it in terms of the eschatological end of it, in terms of what the end of days is. We also don't believe in it because we don't want to be part of a modernizing project. We are running from the modern world. The military brings us into it. So respect our religious faith. But there's a much more practical thing here that I want to tell you about real quick before we move on. It's very simple. The Netanyahu coalition only works. It only works because Netanyahu, who's probably center-right, although he pretends to be a liberal, he was able to pull the right in. The Yoav Gallants, the Itamar Ben-Gvirs, right? The right-wing racists. But he also brought in the religious right, the ultra-religious right. Now, Netanyahu, who also wants to fight the court, erode the court and take the power from the court and put it in the executive branch, he's now chipping away at that. If Netanyahu does not have buy-in, and I'm not blaming Netanyahu for the high court's ruling per se, but they've applied a lot of pressure to the high court. And at a moment where a war, a genocide is being prosecuted in Gaza, they're recruiting as many people as possible. So you got all these moving parts that are at least intensified and worsened because of Netanyahu's action. Anyway, all that to say, the Israeli government's falling apart. The Netanyahu government in particular is falling apart. And this ruling is going to alienate and isolate the ultra-right and it's going to make Israel an even more intolerant space than it is right now. It's already intolerant for Palestinians. It's already intolerant for non-Jews. It's already intolerant for religious minorities. It's already intolerant for peaceniks. It's only going to get worse. So we'll have to keep following this to see what happens. All right, let's move on to a different story. Van Jones. A couple months ago, I spoke about Van Jones. Van Jones has gone to dramatic, if not extravagant lengths to position himself as a centrist. I'm not saying that all of his political beliefs are centrist, but what Van Jones has managed to do quite masterfully, I would argue, is make himself seem like the most reasonable guy in the room, the guy who can talk to Donald Trump and Joe Biden, the guy who can talk to the religious right and the radical left, the person who makes sense to everybody. Now, the problem is when you take that position, and there are benefits to it, but when you take that position, it's hard to stand on ideological business. It's hard to affirm the legitimacy of an anti-prison position or an anti-big government position or an anti-fascism position if every few minutes you got to also say, yeah, but Trump has a point. If it's hard to denounce Trump as an absurdly inappropriate choice for president if you break down in tears and say, tonight is the night that he became president. He really became president. This is the challenge of being Van Jones, right? You want to be everything to everybody. Now, you're talking to a dude that got fired from CNN, and a whole bunch of us got fired. So maybe he knows something we don't, right? He's able to hold on to these jobs. He's able to expand power. He's able to get $100 million bags because people believe that he will steward it right. Now, look, Van Jones is a smart guy. Van Jones knows a lot. Van Jones is thoughtful and careful. That's what concerns me. If Van Jones were just wrong about things, I wouldn't get frustrated. But if I get irritated with Van Jones because Van Jones knows better. And I've told Van this myself. So, I have no qualms in saying this in public. But let's talk specifically about what Van Jones did. The other night, Van Jones was on CNN talking about the recent protests in Los Angeles. If you don't know about them, you should. There was a huge protest that turned violent outside of a Los Angeles synagogue on Sunday. It was in front of a synagogue. To be clear, that's Torah Synagogue in Los Angeles. Not because protesters wanted to protest the synagogue, not because protesters wanted to harm Jews. They were doing the protest there because there was a presentation being done, a real estate event being done by My Israel Home. If you don't know My Israel Home, it's a company that sells settlements in the West Bank. If you don't know, settlements in the West Bank are illegal. These aren't all in Area C. These aren't all inside of like Hebron in accordance with the Oslo Accords of 1993. Let's be clear about that. People are expanding settlements in the West Bank at the expense of Palestinian freedom, Palestinian self-determination, at the expense of any future possibility of that two-state solution that people keep pretending is going to happen. This is what was happening. And so people said, look, if in the middle of a genocidal war in Gaza, if in the middle of illegal settlement expansion in the West Bank, there is going to be a marketing event for settlements in the West Bank, we're going to protest it. Now, the protest got violent. The protest got a little ugly. There was pushback. There were police. There were everything, right? I'm not defending anything violent that happened at the protest, but let's be clear about what the protest was. But of course, CNN was not clear about what the protest was. CNN did the opposite of be clear. They, along with President Biden, who gave this ridiculous statement, and everybody else, they all made it seem as if people were out there just protesting synagogues. They made it seem as if people were just out there arguing with Jewish people. They made it seem as if this was an anti-Semitic march and not a march against settlements in the West Bank. This is what they did. And who pops up but Van Jones to double down on this ridiculousness? Listen to him on CNN when they asked him what he thought. I need y'all. to listen to this because I was quite frustrated.
Unacceptable. As a father who's actually trying to raise my children in Los Angeles, I want to just applaud Mayor Bass, Governor Newsom, and President Biden for speaking up about this. Listen, if you don't like what's happening in Gaza, it's your right to protest. That's not a problem. But you protest a policy. You don't protest a people. When you protest a policy, you go to City Hall and you protest. You go to the Israeli consulate peacefully, you protest. Maybe you go to your elected representative, you protest. You don't bum rush a Jewish neighborhood and run up on a synagogue. That's not protesting a policy, that's protesting a people. And that is across any line in America, and it has to be called out. And you have to also understand the context here. This is a neighborhood that's already been traumatized. Not just October 7th, which traumatized all Jewish communities.
Oh my Lord. Dude. Let's just pause here for a second for a couple of reasons. One, Van Jones again says something that on its face seems reasonable, right? You don't protest you don't protest a people. You don't protest a people. Of course you don't. The problem is nobody was protesting the people. He just made it sound as if a people was being protested. He just lied and made it sound as if a people were being protested, or he didn't investigate the issue very much. But Van is too smart to be that dumb. Van looked it up. He knows better. But I also want y'all to look at, another slice of this, right? Which is the media work that's happening. Van Jones ain't doing this alone, right? When you look at this image, you see screaming Palestinians, you see keffiyeh, you see flag, staring down the police, these menacing Arabs and pro-Arabs, these Arab lovers. You protest the policy, you don't protest the people. The people weren't being protested, Van. No one was marching against Jews. They were marching against Israeli settlements. And you know better. You know better. This is my frustration, because there was a time when Van spoke out against this stuff. Let's go back to Van's old clips. Let's go back to Van's old audio. Let's go back to Van's old music. Oh, now you get something different. He knows better, but he's willing to stand there and be useful to these people. There's more, though, because Van didn't stop there. If he had stopped there, I might not be so irritated.
But that neighborhood in particular, last year in February, not one, but two Jewish men, Orthodox Jewish men, were gunned down, were shot in two back-to-back hate crimes. So you're dealing with a community that's already traumatized, they're already fearful, and then you go and you do something like this. I have no problem with people protesting policy.
Repeating that stupid quote, right? Because I guess it tracks well. Now he's making a connection between peaceful protesters of an illegal policy. Remember, settlement in the West Bank is illegal. And people being gunned down, of course, Jewish people being gunned down is evil. Of course it's a crime. Of course it's disgusting. Of course we should march against that. If a Jewish person, Orthodox or not, is gunned down in LA, I'm gonna be in LA marching against the killing, standing with Jewish people. But to tie that to this is unseemly. How dare you tie a peaceful protest against policies that are killing tens, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Palestinians ultimately? How can you compare that to this evil act that some individual did against a Jewish person in Los Angeles? It isn't right. It's disgusting, but you know what you're doing. And then he brings up the P word.
You cannot protest a people. That is not a protest, that's a pogrom, and that has to stop.
Let's talk.
It's a pogrom, he said. That is a pogrom. He is now trying to suggest pogroms happened in Ukraine. Pogroms happened in Russia. Pogroms happened in Spain. Pogroms happened in Jerusalem. Pogroms happened in New York. There have been moments in history where Jewish people have been subjected to mass violence, mass intimidation, mass physical threats, where large amounts were wiped out. That is a pogrom. Marching in the streets against an illegal settlement, Van Jones, is not a pogrom. And for you to invoke that language at the same time that you invoke the image of people being gunned down in the street while talking about a peaceful protest is not just sloppy language. It is dishonest. It is dishonest. And I won't, you don't got to hear the whole interview, but there's this moment where he also says, well, you don't see Jews doing that at mosques. It's apples and oranges, Van. Of course you don't see Jews marching against mosques. Mosques are not responsible for what's happening in Gaza. If mosques were holding planning meetings to do physical harm to Jews or to do physical harm to the state of Israel, then you would be protesting mosques, if not more. And you should. But that's not happening at mosques. But these synagogues happen to be, this particular synagogue, I'm saying, not all synagogues, this particular synagogue and a couple of others had been ground zero for marketing of home sales in illegal settlements. That's why they're protesting. They're not protesting a religious ceremony. They're not protesting Jewish people. If those same home sales were in evangelical churches, which they will be, because a whole bunch of evangelical Christians want to go to the Holy Land or enable the sale of it, they should be protesting the churches too. If it happened in a mosque, they should protest there too. That's the point. It's not about that.
So you can agree or disagree, and what's going after people, human beings, terrifying moms, grandmas, children who are trying to be a part of a neighborhood. The Jewish neighborhoods in LA are well known. Nobody is confused where they are. So if you show up there wearing keffiyeh, you show up there with your face covered, you show up there chanting "River to the Sea," that would be just like a white person running up with a Confederate flag in Harlem. You're not trying to start a conversation. You're trying to start a fight.
This man just compared on Beyonce's internet wearing a keffiyeh to being a Ku Klux Klan member. He's saying that the garb, the representative symbol of freedom for Palestinian liberation, is the same thing as a Klan suit. They're screaming "River to the Sea." Are you going to say saying "Free Palestine" from River to the Sea is like burning a cross to somebody's lawn? How dare you? Again, you know better. You know what "River to the Sea" means, Van Jones. You've said it. You know what? Let me say you've said it yourself. You have said before that there's nothing wrong with saying it. You said that to me. How dare you? How dare you now compare keffiyeh to Ku Klux Klan clothing? How dare you? You know better. And you need to do better. You need to be better. This is inexcusable and disgusting. You have a right to believe what you want. But my frustration is that I don't think you believe it. Or you play dumb. You go to the rally in D.C. in the fall, standing with Israel, and they booed your ass. You know why they booed your ass? Because you said ceasefire. You thought you could play both ends against the middle. You thought you could thread that needle. You thought you could stand there and stand with the Zionist project that has dispossessed and dismantled Palestinian life and prosperity and safety for decades, and then you could just sneak in ceasefire and keep your liberal bona fides. But you can't do that. You got to pick a side. And Van has picked a side, but that side ain't freedom. That side ain't justice. That side ain't the people. So, isn't it for me? Y'all can have Van Jones, man. Y'all can have Van Jones. I'm so disturbed and disappointed. I'm not mad. I probably sound like I'm mad. I'm disappointed because I know Van. I consider Van a friend. And to hear him do this and to watch him do this in real time is almost heartbreaking. He's so talented. He's so smart. He's so capable. And to watch our brother choose this path, I can't explain it. I can't defend it. Anyway, let's go on to another story because y'all got me worked up out here, man. Y'all got me angry right now. Y'all got me angry. Let's go to something a little bit lighter. It's not light, but it's just lighter. Chris Rock. Chris Rock is one of the greatest comedians we've ever produced. And I think one of the worst things that I've ever seen happened to Chris Rock a few years ago when he was slapped at the Oscars by Will Smith. And I've watched him rebound. I watched him do a comedy special. I've watched him kind of become the person that he was again. He's recovered. And I appreciate that about Chris Rock. But Chris Rock is mad right now. According to reports, Chris Rock is very upset at Bad Boys 2. If you haven't seen Bad Boys 4, I haven't seen Bad Boys 4 yet, but I know for sure that there is a slap scene. There is a scene in Bad Boys 4 where Will Smith participates in a slap. And according to observers, according to critics, and according to Chris Rock, it is very reminiscent of the slap at the Oscars. And Chris Rock is not happy about said slap. Chris Rock is not happy about this allusion, I guess you'd say, this alluding to what happened. And I got to tell you, I agree with Chris Rock 100%. Chris Rock thought it was cheap. He thought it was tasteless. He thought it was corny, probably. He didn't use the word corny, so I don't want to use the word corny to put it in Chris Rock's voice, but I'll say I think that shit is corny. Like, you slapped Chris Rock, right? Which, whatever you think about what Chris said or did, I just think slapping somebody in public who's that much smaller than you was unnecessary. You got to control your anger. We're grown men. If you had an issue with him and it had to be physical, talk to him off stage. Talk to him in private. I understand the whole logic of where you did it is where you get it. I know that. I grew up super black, but I don't know if that's fair here. And I'm not sure. I don't think necessarily what Chris Rock did deserve that, although I don't like what Chris Rock said to or about Jada Pinkett. I see all sides of it, but at the end of the day, it happened. And Will, you said you apologized for it. So if you apologize for it, why do you have a scene in your movie with a slap at all? And please don't tell me it's a coincidence or it's a mistake or it's confusion or it's people are being oversensitive. If my whole career was dismantled because I slapped somebody, you wouldn't see a slap anywhere near any film, any TV show, any music video I ever made. Unless, of course, you want to make light of it. This isn't self-deprecating humor. You humiliated Chris Rock in front of his family, in front of his children, in front of his friends, in front of the world. You'd forever change the world, the way the world would see him and you. But let's be clear, you made that choice for yourself. That's the penalty. Chris Rock didn't deserve that. And now to do that in Bad Boys 4, come on, bro. That's whack. That's lame. That you too cool for that, man. You too smart for that. Nah, Will, this ain't it. This ain't it, Will. I hope they edit that out and I hope he apologized. Because what it does is, one, it makes it seem like he was insincere in his apology to Chris Rock. And it also looks like he's trying to make himself the victim. Because you can only do that kind of scene if you were the person who was harmed. Then you can be self-deprecating. But if you did the harm, you can't go out and make jokes like this. This shit is not fair. It's not cool. It's not okay. And again, it's just corny to me. All right. JJ Redick. People are mad about JJ Redick, y'all. JJ Redick, as you know, was announced as the 29th head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. This is a huge job. This is the biggest job on the planet, at least the basketball planet. The coaching the Lakers and coaching the Celtics, it ain't nothing like it. Maybe the Knicks, but in general, this is the biggest job in the world. You're talking about a team that's been to 32 NBA finals, you know. This is a team that has a perennial legacy of excellence, and they hired JJ Redick to be the next coach. Dan Hurley was the initial choice, of course, the UConn back-to-back title winner, a long-time head coach from high school to college. He's going to climb up the rankings. Dan Hurley was a legend. He is a legend, and he said no to the Lakers. They went to the next option, which is the man on your right, JJ Redick. Now, some people were excited about it. Others pointed to JJ Redick's, let's just say, lack of a resume. There's a video going around the internet. Can we pull it up? and I get it. People weren't happy about it. they said that he let me see if I have it. Let me pull it up myself. People weren't happy about JJ Redick's lack of resume, let's just say. And so they made this little infographic. JJ Redick career coaching history. Brooklyn Basketball Academy 2023-24. That's last year. Volunteer 4th grade boys head coach. Los Angeles Lakers 2024-25 head coach. I saw somebody on Twitter saying something like, Lord, when I say accelerate my blessings, this is what I'm talking about. And I get it. JJ Redick is a very easy target right now for a certain kind of criticism. And that criticism, of course, is that white coaches got a much easier road to NBA head coaching jobs than black coaches. That's a fact. No doubt about that. I've watched too many people either not get a shot, look at Sam Cassell, or get a shot and not get a second shot, even with some success. Mark Jackson, who created the Golden State Warriors before Steve Kerr got there. He created the system and he nurtured those players. Or Avery Johnson, who was very successful or somewhat successful in Dallas before not getting another crack at the NBA. Or I've watched people come up through the rankings like Lloyd Pierce, get us, and they weren't NBA players, but they go to Atlanta. Lloyd Pierce went to Atlanta, brilliant basketball mind, as far as I'm concerned. And the cord gets cut way too soon. That's all true. That's all true. Let's be clear about that. But I don't think that JJ Redick is an example of the thing that we're talking about. JJ Redick deserves to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. And I'm going to tell you why. Every once in a while, there is a person who comes straight out of the NBA. First of all, it's not fair to say JJ Redick went from coaching 4th grade to coaching the Lakers. I mean, he created a whole basketball academy in Brooklyn. True, right? It's beyond 4th grade. He works out. He trains NBA players. He also played in the NBA and is one of the better shooters in the history of NBA basketball. He's one of the better shooters in the history of college basketball. He was an elite athlete who played in the NBA for over a decade. That ain't no small thing. And sometimes there are NBA players who have a mind that is sharp enough, that is developed enough that they and who have leadership skills that merit being a head coach. Now, the problem for me isn't that JJ is one of them people; it's that they often only find white people to be that thing. You know what I'm saying? Magic Johnson was allowed to coach without ever having coaching experience. Now, you might say, "Well, JJ Redick ain't no Magic Johnson." True, but history shows that honestly, elite players, the best of the best, actually don't make the best coaches. Pat Riley was an extraordinary coach, average NBA player at best. Phil Jackson, legendary coach, average NBA coach at best. So, if you, Eric Spoelstra didn't play in the NBA. Popovich didn't play in the NBA. So there's no direct correlation between being an elite player and being a head coach. In fact, a lot of times it's the not so elite players who had to actually study the game and work, who didn't have as much athletic ability, but had great minds, who often turn out to be great players. Point guards often also make great NBA coach and leaders. So JJ Redick, to me, is not an example of a white boy who got over. I think Steve Nash might be more like that. Steve Nash, again, smart basketball mind, great point guard, but didn't seem to have the coaching leadership mindset or the respect of the players as a coach, even though he's a legendary point guard, one of the top probably 10 point guards ever. Steve Nash got given that Brooklyn job, not because he was a great coach, but because people wanted him. They were invested in the idea of him being a great coach. And I think, they needed a certain kind of person to coach Harden and Durant and Irving, and that's who they chose. Look, again, Steve Nash ain't got another offer yet. You know why? Because he wasn't that good at coaching. But what about Steve Kerr? Comes right out the gate. He deserves it. Look at Derek Fisher. Again, a point guard, not an elite player. He played with Kobe and Shaq, but it wasn't no big three. But Derek Fisher had some abilities and some he showed some promise that made it make sense for the team, the Knicks, to go after him. Similarly, JJ Redick is brilliant. And I don't use that term often with basketball minds. JJ Redick is a brilliant basketball mind. People always say LeBron James is a brilliant basketball mind. He is. The reason LeBron James chose JJ Redick to do that podcast with is because he's somebody who he could nerd out with about basketball, because they both have these weird, bizarre basketball high IQs. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good coach because you're a basketball savant. You can have it all up here, but not be able to articulate it to others. But JJ Redick seems to have the respect of the players. One of those players is who? LeBron James. LeBron James is the star player on the Lakers, and he doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So if LeBron James loves JJ Redick and believes in JJ Redick's genius and will help keep him there, and it's a veteran team, and veteran teams don't like young, untested coaches. When I say untested, I mean guys who've never been in the NBA or guys who don't earn their respect, but they do like playing for older guys, and guys who are rather guys they know and respect, and they know and respect JJ Redick, not as a coach, but as a player, but it's going to translate. If you don't think they already asked Anthony Davis and LeBron James what they think about JJ Redick, you're crazy. So JJ Redick to me is not the problem. The problem is there are other JJ Redicks out there who are black. There's another black coach out there that deserves a shot, who doesn't have to go through the ranks. Darvin Ham got that shot. Darvin Ham turned out not to be a good choice, but Darvin Ham had to go through the rankings. JJ Redick got a shot right out the gate. Black people don't get the shot right out of the gate usually. Black coaches have to go through the ranks. And if you didn't play in the NBA, you got to go decades sometime to get a chance that a white guy who never played in the NBA can go 5-8 years and do. So we have to do better at spotting black genius. We have to do better at giving black people a chance. We have to do better at not assuming the worst of black coaches. That's what we have to do. But what we don't have to do is think that JJ Redick is somehow undeserving of this shot. I guarantee you, in a town that demands excellence, in a city that is always asking for a championship, Rob Pelinka wouldn't have put his own reputation on the line. LeBron James wouldn't put the last couple of years he has of his career on the line if they didn't think JJ Redick was that guy. Now, the question for JJ Redick is this that job? I know the Lakers job sounds good, but this is a team that's not ready to win right now. As it's currently comprised, this team ain't going past the first or second round. You could pretend that if they only hadn't played Jokic so early, they may have gone deep into the playoffs. Maybe. Or maybe this team ain't good enough. And if this team continues to not be good enough, JJ Redick is going to be in a position to be a coach who wins 40, 45 games a year and gets put out every year. And eventually they're going to blame the coach. And honestly, I don't want that job for a black coach. I don't want a young black coach to make the Lakers job their first job, because you know what? It might end up being their last job, because this is an unwinnable situation. You got all the burden, all the expectation, a bunch of stars, and no chance at winning from a fan base that doesn't want to hear it. And an ownership that is not only dysfunctional, but also tone deaf. That ain't where you want to be. So if your favorite black coach might not want this Lakers job. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, y'all, we're going to go. Thank you for watching Night School. It has been a great time as always. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Please hit that join button. And if you can't find the join button, you're probably on your phone. Go to the desktop computer, go find one, and hit that join button and become a monthly subscriber to the channel so you can help us continue our mission of giving you radical, independent, black media. Also, of course, if you don't want to make a monthly commitment, you can also hit the Cash Apps, the Venmos, the PayPals, the Zelles. There's a whole thing there you can find right here on the screen. There it is. All you got to do is go to one of those platforms. You can make a donation right now. Pay your monthly tuition. If everybody made a donation of just $10, just $10 for the month, we can meet all of our fundraising goals. We can meet all of our payroll goals. So just think about it and do it if you can. If you can't do it, just keep hitting the like button, keep hitting the subscribe button, and keep sharing the content and keep spreading the word about Night School. All right, family, I'll see you soon. Peace.